up, Bry?
Not yet. It's starting. Still the circle. Welcome to Mornings with Matt, personal and professional development training that connects the art of acting with critical life skills and self-mastery. Presented by the Deering Acting Studio.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Mornings with Matt. We've got our good friend here, Kristina Knowles. Hello, Kristina.
Hey,
So,
how are you guys doing?
you know what? Life is good. I'm happy to be alive. How about yourself?
Good. Actually, this whole quarantine thing has been a lot of self-reflecting.
Yeah? Tell
Which
me
is
about
kinda
that.
nice. Yeah.
Tell me about your self-reflecting.
Just I just been asking myself hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do I like the person I look at in the mirror? Am I putting out traits that other people can mimic, not mimic, but take in their own lives? So that's been those type of questions I've been asking, and just really digging deep.
Yeah. So your internet got a little choppy there for 1 second, but those are some big questions. I like that you're doing some self-reflecting there. I think that's a big deal. So before we dive into that, why don't you give us a quick little hit on exactly who you are and where you come from?
Yeah. Kristina Knowles. I am 32. I've been married for 10 years. I'm from Concord, California. Um, and I have a lot of siblings and nieces and nephews. I'm the oldest, but no kids. I just have two dogs.
Awesome.
That's pretty much it.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to give you this opportunity right now to lift up the people around you a bit. So, talk to me about your husband, and I'd like you to sit there for a minute because I think that this is a really important person for us to talk about a little bit.
Okay. Um, You're making me cry.
I know
My
that's the point.
husband is amazing. Um, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was still able to walk. I was still able to do a little bit of things by myself. It slowly got worse through the years.
Yeah.
It got worse because I was trying to walk myself to the bathroom, and I was like, I don't want to ask for help. I refused to ask for help. And I fell and I broke my foot. And that just, after that, there was no coming back from that. My foot was broken. It took longer for my boot longer. And then finally my legs just started getting really, really weak. And that was a really hard, dark time for me. And it would have been hard. He gives me strength when I don't have it. He's just a really good guy. I'm so blessed to have him in my life.
You know you are, and I want to say too that he's really blessed to have you. Um, we don't we don't get to understand this. I think sometimes the blessing that we are on other people and what we're able to bring to them, and it's hard when you're the one, especially for a season, you're the one that's being given to. Um, I think especially when your identity is surrounded by being somebody that can do for yourself. But think about this. Some of the happiest times in your life probably revolve around times when you were giving to someone else, right? When you got to have that feeling of the joy of contributing to somebody else. And you have imparted in this man, he's made the choice, of course, like he made the choice, but you've imparted in this man a sense of love and givingness that he probably didn't even know he was capable of doing. And I can tell you that I don't really know him very well, but I respect the crap out of that dude. You know, I watch the way he loves you. I watch the way he shows up at the studio, and I want to get to know him. I think that guy is a phenomenal human being, and I believe that the two of you are together for a reason. You know, there's a very specific purpose there, and that's why I wanted to stop and talk about him for a second, because I just thought, you know, this man should be highlighted. You know, he should be on a billboard, and everybody should be talking about him.
I agree.
And he's not that way, though. You know, I mean, he's very quiet, doesn't really bring attention to himself in any way, shape, or form. You know, he's never looking for accolades, never looking for, you know, credit for what he does. But I'll give everyone a little, just sort of a picture here. When Kristina shows up to the studio, usually her husband brings her, and then, you know, he needs to pick her up and put her in her chair and then help her get into the studio. And then when she's settled, then he leaves. He disappears. Like he was never there. Mm-hmm. And then he shows up like a knight in shining armor and just stays quiet. Nobody kind of even sees him. I do, but he kind of just sneaks in, grabs you, and takes you home. And that kind of discipline and love and consistency is so rare in a human being. And I just think the world of him, and I respect him and your marriage quite a bit, just so you know.
Thank you. That means a lot. Like, that really does.
So tell me about you. You were on this journey. You found out you had multiple sclerosis. You went through a pretty dark time, which I think is very, very, very reasonable. You know, trying to come out of that. And the exciting part is now it's a story that as you lift yourself out of that darkness, you're going to be able to talk about it and help a lot of other people. And I think you know that. But talk to me about how you so you're coming out of that, and then you found our studio, which I don't think is a coincidence. So how did that come about?
I was actually just sitting here on my couch, and I was like bored, and I was like, I really want to do something, but I was like, what can I do? So I'm in a wheelchair, so I was like, what really can I do? But I was actually just looking online, and I was like, I love to act. Like, I did that in high school and then church plays and stuff. So I was like, oh, yours was actually the first that popped up. Really? And I was like, okay, maybe. So I looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. The reviews are good. And then
you're getting choppy. You were getting choppy again there for a second.
Oh, I kept pushing the date back of when I would come.
Oh, really?
Because I was really scared. And finally, I think I came in January of 2019. I finally came, and I've been loving it ever since.
So why do you suppose you were pushing it back each time you did?
A fear of the person I wasn't anymore. I guess I hide my disability, even though it's visible. I just don't want other people to see it. So it's easier to hide than to show it.
You know, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of work on our web site and web presence and stuff, and every now and then I like to go and just pretend I'm somebody off the street that just found us. So I did that the other day, and I was going through the experience with Shay, and I was going, okay, so when I get to the website, here's what I do. I click here, and then I go here, and I just sort of like, you know, I play this game with myself. And what's funny is I got to the video of our adult classes, which is like this upbeat trailer of all the cool, fun stuff that we're doing and whatnot. And what's interesting is I told Shay, I said, you know what? That's really intimidating when I when I look at this as an outsider, as me being somebody that hadn't been here before. That's the way I'm pretending in my mind. I'm like, that place looks really cool and scary to me. Um, I looked at it and just said it's interesting because we don't see it from the inside because these are all people we love and that we know, and it seems so fun. But I was looking at it from the outside and going, this is pretty intimidating. And if I saw this trailer, truthfully, it might take me 6 months to walk in this door because I don't know that I would have the confidence. So I'm having Joey redo the video actually, to be frank. But it was like, it was like one of those moments where I get it. I understand why it takes a second to kind of push yourself to walk in the door.
Yeah.
What was your first impression? I'm curious.
I was just like, there's a lot of people here. And I didn't know what to say, but everybody was really welcoming and warm. And I was just like there's so many people, but everybody was really, really nice. I was just like, this place feels, I don't know, like when I first came, I felt peace about it, which was weird, but I felt peace. And that was something that I haven't felt since being diagnosed.
That's amazing. We spend a lot of time on the space and on even just like the vibrations around here and the spirituality and whatnot that's connected to a location. So that brings me a lot of joy to hear that you had that experience. And I don't think everybody feels that. Interestingly, I believe now I didn't always feel this way, but now I do, that the right people are being called here for the right reasons. And truthfully, I want you to stay if you get that feeling of peace. But if you ever get the feeling where it's not that, then we'd rather you go and find whatever you need to find in you, or maybe we need to grow in some way to be ready for you, whoever you are out there. But you should leave if you don't have that like sense of like, oh, yep, this is for me. Then there's another place for you right now, and maybe maybe we'll be on your list later or something. I don't know.
No, I feel like it's weird. I don't know, but like every time, like in class, there's always something new, but it's like an everyday situation for myself. Like I think about it, like when we do improv.
Hope you got frozen again there on me.
Not the character, but I feel just challenge as the character, but as the person myself. And it's just, I don't know, it's so weird. It's just, yeah, it's just crazy. Like I feel like more challenged as a person than a character, which is nice.
That's amazing. All right, good. So let's get to a couple of the questions you had for today.
Oh, do you want me to pull them up?
Yeah, or I can lead you into them if you'd like.
Oh, no, I got it. I just have to go back in my email.
You want to talk to me about this quote that you had here? The you drown not by falling into the river, but by staying submerged in it.
So I was actually watching a movie, and one of the characters, and I thought about it for a second, and I was just like, that's life. That's life every day. You can choose to fight or you can choose to drown. Either way, it's your choice. And that's actually been something that I'm probably going to get tattooed on me, but that is like, you never know what your months, days, how your life will change. But you got to be ready to fight no matter what. It's going to be hard. Like, it's hard to put a smile on every day, to be cheerful, but you got to do it. You got to fight, because no one's going to fight for you.
That's true. I'm a huge fan of analogies, as you know, and so I love this quote. I think it's very beautiful, and I hadn't heard it. So the way my instrument sort of interprets this, and it's very cool, and I'm in complete agreement with you. Life is this river. So if you think about it, there's always resistance. Always. There's going to be rapids sometimes it'll be calmer, but there's always resistance. And you want the resistance. That's the interesting thing. Like, you don't actually want it to go away, because think about it. If you're in a river, yeah, and I like the drowning part, but imagine even if you don't drown, but you just stop fighting, you stop pushing forward, what happens is you get to relax for a minute, right? But when you relax for a minute, what happens? You're going to go back downstream. You're going to end up so much further back than where you started. And I think that's what happens a lot. It's what happened to me a lot when I was younger. Was I would push till things felt good. Like, I'd probably get through the rapids or something, and then I would relax for a second, and I would let myself fall back, and then I'd push, and I was like going up the river really slowly, because it was just like this back and forth. So, yeah, I think that's an amazing quote. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. So I guess one of the questions was, how can I expect myself to be a better person / actress?
How can you expect yourself to be a better person / actress? Is that right?
How can I continue to self-check myself? Self-check. Sorry, I have a retainer in.
It's not that. It's the internet.
Oh.
Every now and then it gets choppy and I miss a word here or there. But yeah. So how do you self-check? That's a really good question. I mean, it just honestly, it's gonna be easier than you think probably, and it's really just wanting it. That's the way. So. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday, but that they were, was trying to explain to them what we've created here with our team, and as we build the team and grow the team beyond where we are now, some of the challenges we're going to run into, but it's going to be that people have to buy into this mindset that we've figured out, which is you're never looking for the compliment. You're seeking the critique. You have to be wanting the critique every day. And sometimes there isn't a critique. Sometimes you can celebrate the moment. That's fine. But at the same time, acknowledge that there's probably a better way. There's probably some way that you could have improved. And when I think about that concept, I think of somebody like Steven Spielberg, for instance. So he makes a movie, right? And let's say it's a blockbuster hit like E.T. If he thought to himself, that's as good as I could get, like that's a great movie, it's unbelievable, then he would have never made any other movies and he would have never progressed forward. But my guess is by the time he was done with the editing process of E.T., he was thinking to himself, God, I wish I would have done it this way, and I wish I would have done that, and I wish I would have done this, but we're going to put this movie out. The next one, however, is going to be even better. And so you can celebrate the win, but always be seeking the critique, asking people, hey, where can I improve? How can I get better? And asking yourself the same thing. So this was a stick point for a minute in our marriage, my wife and I, until she grasped the idea of exactly what I meant by it. And what I said was, I was like, I'm not satisfied with where we are in our marriage not because it's not great, because it's unbelievable, but because I always want to be finding a way to be better. So if there's a better way to love you, I want to find it. And I would hope that you'd want to do the same thing for me. And it took a minute for her to get that, but once she got it, her and I are now on a whole nother level of just euphoric marriage, where we are actively seeking ways to better ourselves, not only for us, but for the other person and for our kids and whatnot. So on a daily basis, we'll check ourselves and go, okay, I did this. There's probably room to grow here and there, and so I think it's literally just deciding one day, I'm going to ask this question and I'm going to get excited to ask it. I'm not going to be afraid to ask it, and I know that the question will never go away.
That's good. That's really good.
What else you got for me?
That's good. Do actors or actresses with a physical disability have more challenges to get roles?
Do actors or actresses with a physical disability have more challenges to get roles? Yes, absolutely. And the reason is because everything's cyclical, and as far as like race and who's going to get what role and whatnot. I remember sitting through a casting recently, and this one actor was by far the best, and everybody in the room agreed upon it. And I was just silent. I didn't say anything because it wasn't my place to say something. But at the end of the discussion, everybody agreed, hey, she's the best. And then the one person says, yeah, but she's white, so we can't. and that was it. It was like, she's out, just like that. And it's okay, but the truth is, like in this particular commercial, they needed a particular diversity. Yeah. They were going after a certain market, this and that. So everyone has to acknowledge, like, you know what? That's actually not even something to take offense to. It's not something to be like, oh, they're being this way or that way. It's like, this is advertising. If they're trying to go after a certain market, maybe this particular look is not perfect, and that actor couldn't have done anything better. But that actor will never know that they were first. They'll never know that they were the one that was at the top here. Hold on a second. It looks like I lost you for 1 second. There we go. We're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, we're back. Okay, cool. So so that actor would never know that they were at the top of the list. So the key is not to stop, and when I say cyclical, that's what I mean. Right now, there's waves of this would be the popular race or color or something to be in a commercial for a particular reason or trend or something. All of a sudden, blondes are popular, and then they're not popular, and then if you're blonde, you have no chance in Hollywood. And I just hate all that, So do you have a harder time? I think absolutely you do, but at the same, because there's less roles for you. There's less roles where they say, I am specifically looking for somebody in a wheelchair. And the thing you have going against you is somebody else who doesn't have to be in a wheelchair could just be in a wheelchair. They could try to learn how for the role. So that's what you're up against. Oh man, we keep losing you here. But on the reverse side of this whole thing, we're back. Are you there?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So on the reverse side of this whole thing, so there are going to be less roles for you, but at the same time, there's going to be less competition. So it's similar to being being a working actor in a small market. You can do it. And in some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder. There's less jobs, but there's less competition. It's really similar, and my advice doesn't change. I said this yesterday actually to Jonathan was on the show, and I told him it's all about you producing, because you got to create your own success. That's really the important thing.
That's good. Question in the question.
Okay.
So having a physical disability and you do try out for a role, like, can directors, like, when they see you, like, be like, this is let's keep the way it looks. Like, I like the way this looks. Like, they had an idea of what their character looked like, but then they change it. Is that something that could happen?
100% happens all the time.
Like okay, that's what I was wondering.
100%. So don't limit yourself by a description of a character. Don't limit yourself based on the fact that it's not asking for someone in a chair. If they don't specify something like this character is running, then fair game for you to audition. And then if you're the best actor in the room, you're going to get the part. I mean, truthfully, okay, let's say any film, any local film, any commercial that's high level, right? And these are going to be Arizona actors, men, going after the role. And the best of the best show up. And then Denzel Washington or Will Smith or Tom Hanks shows up in a wheelchair, and they're stuck to the wheelchair, but their performance is their level of quality. They're probably going to get the part. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. So that's where you got to, when you wrap your mind around this, you go, okay, there are limitations, yes, but what can I do? You ask yourself that same question, what can I do? And if that's true, that Denzel would get the part over everybody else, then that means I do have some things that I can work on and I can do. Now, if the part requires you to run and it's just absolutely necessary, maybe they pass on Denzel. But you know what? It's probably a mistake. but maybe they pass on him. You know, I don't know.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think I have one more.
All right, one more.
I can log in my phone. Oh yeah. So this was a big question for me. Growing up in a Christian household, can your outlook on just God and everything change? Like how you were told to see things, but see them different?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very personal question. And I don't know that I know the answer because I am not God. So I'm not sure about that. You know, I grew up in a Christian household. It was a Catholic home. And so all I can tell you is that my personal journey has been an evolution. And there were times when I just went with the flow and did what mom and dad said and showed up to church and said the prayer and I memorized the thing. And then there was a time that I showed up for my wife and for her family and to, you know, for certain reasons. And now there's a time when I call myself curious. And I think that's a good way to live. And it's a good thing to have for your faith because my personal belief is that, I mean, I subscribe to Christianity 100%. I believe in Jesus Christ. I'll say that out loud. But having said that, I don't know that religion is anything but man-made. And so all the leaders of different religions are all doing their best to try to explain and try to help people come to God and be with God. And so I don't probably know enough about it to actually give you a very specific answer. I just know that, hey, she's back. I just know that for me, that the idea that there's this connection to curiosity specifically, and so I do believe that your faith, your perspective can evolve. And as you get closer to God, you get closer to self, you learn to listen at a really high level. You start to figure out more things. And mainly for me, it's about listening to the Spirit that lives inside all of us, that tells us and helps us and guides us with what to do. And that Spirit lives inside of us 24/7. So sometimes the voice is louder, sometimes it's quieter, but it's always there, and we always know really what to do. And sometimes we listen, and sometimes we don't. Just like kids, you know, that's how we are.
Pretty much.
Well, we are going to have you back on the show probably one of
good.
these times when we can have you in person, because our connection kept going in and out there with your side.
Was it me?
I think
Is it
so.
my
I think it was your
connection?
internet. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because it stayed on my end, but I don't know. It could be us too. I'm not going to tell you I know. But either way, we did have technical difficulties today, so I do apologize for that to you and to anybody who's watching. But this was really beautiful, and thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for lifting up your husband the way you did. We love you, we respect you, and we're so happy to have you part of the studio.
Thanks.
Thanks for
I'll
being.
be back June. Well, I'm going to do video classes.
Good.
June.
Awesome. And you do whatever it takes to stay safe. I know you're in a very specific scenario, and if that's even more convenient for you, you do what you're gonna do. I know my Aunt Vicky is in the improv class, and what's interesting is she had the 2 herniated discs, and if it wasn't for online courses, she couldn't have come. And she says that those online courses have really changed the trajectory of her life. She feels so much more confident and happy and whatnot. So, yeah, that's definitely something that's actually what we're working on right now, is figuring out how to combine the two in such a way that it's really a blessing for everybody, for those who are in person and those who are online, to be connected through this new world that we're creating together. So, yeah, so thank you for being part of the studio. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in with Mornings with Matt. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel. That means the world to us. And we'll see you tomorrow, 7 a.m.